Hi, I'm Abby, also known as Babbling Abby, and welcome to Show and Tell, a fun series where I share an amazing read aloud and the different ways that you can use it for instruction in your classroom or at home. Be sure to stay tuned to the end of this episode where I will share a link where you can download many of the printables that you see in today's episode. I'm going to share a new book that we've recently added to our bookshelf, and it is Blizzard by Rocco. This story tells the epic tale of a blizzard that lands a town in feet of snow. Plows can't get down the street, so families are stranded in their homes, and one little boy finds it his own personal job to journey to the store to replenish the rations for the rest of the town. It's a fantastic read, and the illustrations are superb. There are so many great nuggets buried in this story. I couldn't even contain my teacher brain from thinking of the different ways it could be used for instruction. From vocabulary to problem and solution to a fun measurement activity, there is plenty you could pull from to maximize the use of this book with your students. Use the following activities as I share them, or put your own spin on them and use them as a springboard to create your own. Let's get to it. So before I'll read, I will go through and I will place these sticky notes on pages throughout the book. They provide me with reminders to ask specific questions as I'm reading and to check for comprehension along the way. I've even labeled these with page numbers so that it makes it easy for me to locate the page. And then I just pull off that sticky note that I have printed on my printer, and voila, an easy reminder so that while I'm reading, I remember to check for comprehension and ask those higher level questions. One thing that I love about this book is that the story starts before the text does. This is an excellent thing to point out to your students, to have them try to get into the brain of the author and illustrator. Why do you think he chose to start the story here? One other thing that I love to point out to kids is when something changes with the way that the book is laid out. For instance, this book has a 4-page spread of this little boy's journey through the town as he navigates his way to the store. So I like to ask my students, why do you think the illustrator did that? Or why did the author choose to lay out these pages this way? These are all great for generating those higher level thinking questions with your students and having them really get into the head of the author. Blizzard naturally lends itself to teaching about problem and solution. I printed out these posters and could have students fill them out in small groups, individually, or we could generate both as a class. You could differentiate based on the level of your students and their capabilities. For some, it might just be drawing a picture. For some, it might be drawing a picture and labeling, or drawing a picture and writing complete sentences. You could use this activity for kindergarten, first, and second grade. I immediately thought that this would be a good story for teaching sequencing or retelling. You could provide your students with labels for the day of the week and then print sentence strips that match that day's activity. Students would work together to sequence the timeline of the snowy week. At the beginning of the story, the author mentions that when he was a young boy, nearly 4 feet of snow fell from the sky. How fun would it be to do a measurement activity with your students to show them just how tall 4 feet of snow is? You could measure out 4 feet of snow up against the wall and have students measure themselves up against it. Those who were taller than 4 feet stepped into one line, and those who were shorter into another. Create a human bar graph and discuss the results. As a follow-up, students can complete this activity sheet and identify an object that is taller than 4 feet and one that would be buried beneath the snow. As you'll note, on Saturday, the little boy in this story, who we can only assume is the author, Rocco, makes a trip to the store. This easily lends itself to teaching our students about list making. Or as a follow-up comprehension activity, you could also discuss with them what would they buy for a snow day or what would they do on a snow day, and they can make lists for those. Your younger kids, you might have them draw a picture, and for your older kiddos, you can actually have them generate lists for what they would do on a snow day. A quick note on organization. For the purpose of storing my book activities, I simply take a file folder, label it with the title and the author, and then I put a picture of the book on the outside so that I remember what I'm looking for when I go to pull this activity out again another time. On the inside, I will put my book guide, which includes the title, the author, the different standards I want to cover, the theme, genre, the literacy skill, and the vocabulary words that I'm going to use, as well as any notes that I want to write to myself so I don't forget to use these in the future. Over on this side, this is where I put text-dependent questions and vocabulary words so that I can come back and reuse these every single year. All of the vocabulary words are taken directly from the text. These are great to pop into a pocket chart. And then these text-dependent questions are all based on Bloom's taxonomy. So you can see this is an application level question. How might the story change if there were a rainstorm instead of a snowstorm? And these are the questions that I would use after I have finished reading the story. And I keep those stored here just so I can use them again and again year after year. Additionally, my book is probably going to wind up on the shelf for my students to read, but all my master printables, my stuff that I want to keep in a pocket chart, including those vocabulary words and text-dependent questions, all get folded and easily popped into a file folder for reuse next year. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Show and Tell. Be sure to click the subscribe button to follow my channel, and don't forget to grab the free printables to use with Blizzard at bit.ly/free Blizzard.